Immigration has been hot news since the start of the second presidency of Donald Trump in the U.S. Countries in the U.S.-led West are turning against immigration. People on both sides of the Atlantic are uniting against immigration. Anti-immigration political parties in the West are on the rise. These countries have been open and liberal to immigration for decades before this. What happened? What have changed? Mass immigration. The number is too massive. Host countries feel overwhelmed. Some even consider it to be an invasion.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
If you even glance at the headlines, it can feel like Europe is souring on immigration. In just the last week, Switzerland's federal elections were won by the migrant-skeptic Swiss People's Party. Inferior ministers from across the EU released a statement demanding tighter immigration rules, and even the usually liberal Olaf Scholz gave an interview with Der Spiegel, arguing for a more aggressive deportation system. In France, Macron said last month that he wanted to significantly reduce immigration. In Italy, Meloni has called for a naval blockade of the Italian coast and warned that the EU could be overwhelmed by immigration. And in the Netherlands, Mark Rutte's government was brought down by internal disagreements over immigration.
The UK is in one of the most dangerous situations it has ever faced. And the reason? Mass immigration, not controlled, not managed, completely out of control.
Deportations of foreign nationals who have come to our country and committed serious crimes against the British people. Deportations of those arriving in our country illegally. Send a message: if you come here without permission, you will not stay under any circumstance. Two words: detain, deport. I was told that a deportation scheme on the scale required would be impossible, as it would take a flight leaving every hour. That sounds like a very good starting point to me.
Voorzitter, ten slotte heb ik nog een boodschap aan al die moslims in Nederland die onze vrijheid, onze democratie en onze kernwaarden niet respecteren. Die de regels van de Koran belangrijker vinden dan onze seculiere wetten. En dat zijn er veel. 700.000 blijkt uit het onderzoek van professor Koopmans. En mijn boodschap aan hen is: wegwezen. Vertrek naar een islamitisch land. Dan kunt u genieten van islamitische regels. Dat zijn hun regels, maar niet de onze. Dit is ons land. Niet uw land, maar ons land. Dit is Nederland.
Is immigration good or bad for the world? To arrive at the conclusion, let's analyze the history, economics, social and political aspects of immigration. The history of immigration. The history of immigration is also the history of humanity. If humanity today were to trace its history back to the time they stepped out of Africa, most of us today would be descendants of immigrants. But that was also a history of wars, conquests, empires, and colonies. European imperialism and colonialism witnessed the largest and widest human migration the world has ever seen. Europeans migrated to many parts of the world they conquered and became the dominant people there. Today, among the Five Eyes countries of US, Canada, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand are Britain and remnants of the British Empire, which are Anglo-Saxon dominated and still steep in British heritage. Where they have conquered but not dominated, the Europeans opened the territories to other non-European immigrants, mostly as indentured laborers. Today, the world has been divided up into unequal nations, each with its own border. Immigration today is about people peacefully crossing international borders to seek better lives for themselves and their future generations. This too has its problems. The flow is unidirectional. From more populous, less developed, less stable and less peaceful parts of the world to its less populous, more developed, more stable and more peaceful parts. With uneven distribution. Most massive number of immigrants to the most appealing country. Economics of immigration. Today, countries accept immigrants mostly due to economic reasons. At the high-level economy, these countries need the skills, knowledge, and expertise that the immigrants bring. In exceptional cases, immigrants bring along with them high-tech, innovative and entrepreneurial skills. At the low-level economy, they do the work that locals avoid, low-pay, hard and dangerous ones. In most cases, immigrants come with locally available skills and knowledge but at a lower cost. Proponents of immigration argue that this will make the host nation's economy more competitive internationally. Why are immigrants not contributing to the economies of their own countries? Because they can't. Their own countries cannot provide them the opportunities. Host nation provides better employment opportunities, a better life and a better future for the immigrants and their next generations, which their own country cannot. Therefore, a host nation contributes much more to the immigrants than they can contribute to its economy. Immigrants compete with locals for limited resources. They take over the jobs of locals, making the locals the unemployed.
They can't even take care of the American citizens before they're bringing in waves and waves of immigrants. And then look at it. There's so many people, veterans, mostly white people that are homeless, living on the streets, has nothing to eat. But these people have brand new houses, brand new cars. I'm having a hell of a time finding a job because they want the Haitian. They're getting thousands of dollars in government assistance. I worked retail before I lost my job back in April. When I do transactions, I can see what comes across on certain cards. I'm not trying to be nosy. I don't want to know what you get. But when a Haitian comes through and spends $500 in food stamps and still has $5,000 on their food assistance card.
$5,000?
$5,000. Would you like to know what the Haitians are calling the food assistance cards?
Tell me.
Even the cash assistance cards. They're calling them the magic money cards because they never run out.
Instead of being grateful, immigrants would become so arrogant that they believe that the host country cannot do without them. They would even believe that they are better and more superior than the locals. Cheaply available labor and skill stagnates the economy in a low-cost, low-tech state. There is no motivation to upgrade the economy to a high-skill, knowledge-intensive one, example, through automation. Immigration causes a brain drain in the source country, skimming off its cream, thus hindering its development. Economic immigrants have no love for the country that hosts them. They are there only for the money, using a host nation as a stepping stone. If they think they can have better lives somewhere else, they will scoot off in no time.